We are rolling. Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
Hello, I'm Simon. Just before we start. Okay. Once I'm with feeling.
Right.
Ready?
And so, let's do it.
Okay. Hello, I'm Simon Mersip, and welcome to Crave. This is the podcast and videocast dedicated to entertainment. All manner of entertainment, and entertainment has been of interest lately because it's had a different tenor and tone to it.
Hasn't it just?
Steve McCabe, hasn't it?
Has indeed, Simon. So basically, I mean, even we can't escape the coronavirus. Well, we personally can. Because we live in New Zealand, the best of countries. But things are getting cancelled. Things are getting postponed. Things are getting cancelled.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that things are changing around here.
Yeah, so we're going to spend a bit of time this week just chatting about what we might be doing in the weeks and months ahead where we might not be going out to the cinema or the theatre.
Not so much.
Or to a concert arena.
Well, there won't be any concerts in arenas, will there now?
No, it doesn't look like it. So this week, though, we're going to chat about that, some options for what we might do over the next little while. But Steve and I have been to a few entertainments.
We have.
We'll talk about those. Those include examples of theatres, productions which Steve has seen but have since closed.
Yes. Has it actually closed?
Or it's been announced that it's
it doesn't surprise me. So that would be the Book of Mormon.
The Book of Mormon.
Yep.
We both have seen a preview of a film that will be released in the cinema. How many people will go to the cinema, we don't know, but it's called The Personal History of David Copperfield.
Absolutely.
And we've got a few other treats besides.
Yes. But since it's what all the cool kids are catching these days, let's talk about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So right now, obviously, big deal is we're taking care of health, taking care of families, and a lot of the time that's going to mean staying at home.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not going to get out. I mean, we're in New Zealand. We've just found out that, first of all, entertainers aren't coming to town because it makes no sense to arrive in New Zealand to do one show and have to start off doing 14 days of self-isolated quarantine before you perform. So it's realistic that a lot of people are cancelling. Should we mention this very quickly?
Let's do that now.
So one of the big ones that was announced recently was My Chemical Romance.
Yep.
Folk around the world were so excited about this. It was a huge deal. A lot of people's favourite band. And they finally reformed. And they announced a date for actually coming up very, very shortly in New Zealand. And we started arranging press passes and all the rest. And they were coming here on the back of playing the Download Festival in Australia. Download, understandably, has been cancelled. So even before the new travel restrictions for New Zealand were put in place, it would make no economic sense for My Chemical Romance to fly all the way out to New Zealand just to play one show.
And then have to stay here for 2 weeks.
Well, especially now, we'll have to stay here for 2 weeks before the show.
Yes.
Before they then go out in public and start playing to their adoring fans. So that's been flagged. Other bands on the back of that have been cancelled as well for the same reason. Now, My Chemical Romance is using the word postponed, but we've not seen a new date yet.
Okay.
Other bands, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to your man Tim from the band The East Pointers, Canadian band, who were charming bloke, lovely fella. I was quite looking forward to seeing them. They've had to cancel their tour.
Right.
They just can't make it work.
Yep.
A lot of this is happening now. Like you said, shows like the Book of Mormon, they've had to cancel it. I mean, it's in a theatre.
Yes.
Gatherings of 500 people or more have now been banned. You can't have concerts. You can't have theatre shows. I'm surprised we're even getting... I mean, okay, cinema is only going to work if you've got the small auditoriums.
Yes.
So a lot of stuff is getting cancelled.
But even a small cinema auditorium, people might voluntarily, I suspect, make the decision not to go there because they just don't want to sit in a room, even if it's 50 or 60 people. They might think, I think we'll give that a miss right now. So with that, and even smaller crowds, just local performers, people might be thinking twice about it, I suspect. So
no, when the power station accommodates 1,000, 1,500.
Okay.
Yeah. Town hall's a couple of thousand.
Yes.
You know, these places aren't going to be able to sell tickets.
Nope.
For these events.
So we may, among other things, be at home, and maybe that might include doing things like sitting around the fireside, telling stories and singing songs. Who knows?
That might be what we're reduced to very soon.
Well, goodness me, wouldn't that be a terrible thing? But
it would be awful to review for us, though, wouldn't it?
Oh, yes.
I heard of a fantastic story at number 27 last night. It's not. We can't sell tickets for that. It's not going to work.
But in this day and age, there are other options, and
mercifully they are.
There are. So if you're still wanting to sit down in front of a screen, we still have, of course, free-to-air TV. We still have YouTube, and there's a whole range of subscription platforms that people will probably increasingly turn to. The likes of Netflix, Disney Plus, Neon, Lightbox, Prime Video, Sky, Apple TV, and I probably missed out a few.
Yeah.
we thought it might be worthwhile just taking a minute or two to just have a look at what's involved in accessing them, what the sort of content you can get.
Yep.
And I did a bit of a troll around.
Good man.
This afternoon, just to sort of make myself up to speed with them. But the first thing would be cost, I guess.
Well, that's going to be the obvious thing.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, when concert tickets are going for $100 a pop,
Yep.
then you can save a decent amount of money by not buying your concert tickets.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what does that get you?
Yeah. So the likes of those subscription services, the Netflixes and the Lightboxes. It looks like most of them you're paying around about $9 to $10 up to maybe $13 or $14 a month. Sometimes you pay a bit more if you want to add on extra screens in the house.
Yep.
So when you consider for an adult price to see a film is what, $16, $17, $18.
Yeah.
It's not actually. It depends. Provided you've got income in your house, you can still get your job. That's not an unreasonable cost.
But one grown-up ticket is suddenly a month and a half of one of these subscription services.
Yeah. So there is that. Now, these services, as you know, Steve, they offer a range of movies and TV shows. Some of them are old, some of them are new. And we're seeing increasingly, certainly with Netflix, and I think Amazon do this as well, where they're commissioning their own content. This is a huge part of the industry.
And serious content, non-trivial content.
Absolutely. I mean, we had Netflix basically put out The Irishman, the Scorsese film, and The Marriage Story, both of which were Oscar nominated in recent
did they
times.
not do Roma?
They did Roma as well. You're absolutely right.
Last year's big, 2 years ago's big Oscar thing.
Yeah. So absolutely. I know on Neon, what other platforms do is they'll grab a popular series and use it as a draw card to bring people in. So Neon had the latest series of Game of Thrones, for example. And they've got things like Westworld, which has just started a third season.
Third
season.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. They did the Chernobyl series, which was very well acclaimed overseas. Amazon Prime has a Tom Clancy thing.
Yeah, okay.
They had Fleabag. I'm not sure Fleabag was available elsewhere. Maybe it was.
But that's worth the price of admission,
and that's
right there.
Very high quality British,
remarkably high quality show.
And then you've got Disney Plus, which brings in all the Pixar movies, all the Disney movies, all the Marvel movies,
even Star Wars
and Star Wars.
Star Wars, that's a Disney property these days.
Yeah.
I might, if I do end up putting myself in self-isolation, I might finally get around to watching The Mandalorian. I've been meaning to watch it for a long time.
Yeah, and some of them have. It hasn't had great reviews though, has it? Or has it? I thought it's been middling.
I think it very much depends on who you ask.
Okay, and then you've got Lightbox, which I think has changed its business a little bit. I think when it first came out, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was mainly a television series.
I believe that to be the case.
Yeah, international and local TV.
But this is primarily a New Zealand service, isn't it?
Yes.
So whereas Netflix and Disney Plus and those guys are international, this is very much a local service.
So Lightbox has adapted what it does so that you can do rentals of films for say $7 or $8 per rental, and it can last for 30 days. So again, that's pretty good value.
Well, that's interesting because Apple will do movie rentals through iTunes, but they're typically 48 hours.
Okay, I'm sure I saw 30 because I looked at one on Lightbox the other day. I'm sure it was 30 days.
I believe you. I think I think that's much more appealing.
And the thing I noticed about Lightbox compared to some of the others is that its releases seemed a little more recent.
Okay, yeah.
They had, for example, they had very quickly the best picture Oscar winner, Parasite, was out almost straight away.
That's not been long out in New Zealand cinemas, really.
They had Knives Out quite quickly. Doctor Sleep, the follow-up to that one.
Yeah.
The
Shining.
The Shining.
Thank you very much.
Judy and other films like that.
Yep.
So they've had. That may be one of their selling points. They've got some quite recent films.
Yes, that will make a big difference.
And I have to confess, I haven't looked at YouTube, the Apple TV content. Are you familiar with that?
I am, yes, because I actually have an Apple TV.
Yeah.
And so when you first turn it on, it gives you a preview of what's available across the top of the screen. It's effectively like now I've never actually been in a New Zealand video store.
Okay.
Because we were moving away from video when I arrived in New Zealand.
Yes.
But my recollection of certainly living in the United States was stuff was coming out on DVD, should we say 6 weeks after you've seen it in the pictures?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of turnaround that they're doing. It's the equivalent roughly of stuff that was in US cinemas not that long ago is now showing up on Apple TV. And that's a really good turnaround.
It is. And I think Apple, I was checking today, I think they charge US $6 a month, which is about $9 or $10 depending on the
now this depends on what we're talking
conversion.
about here. That's their subscription-based service, which is doing TV programs like, for example, the morning show.
Okay.
Now I'm talking about what they've been doing for a very long time, which is the iTunes music store bit where you can get hold of actual films.
Okay, gotcha.
And so what they're doing, you can buy where you've got long-term access to the content for typically around $15. You can buy the content.
Okay.
It's rights managed, so I can play it on my machine, but I can't necessarily give it to you.
Got it.
But I've got lifetime access to it.
Okay.
Or you can do a rental of it, which is typically around $4. And this is how I watched Parasite a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And that's going to be $4, let's say, that kind of price. But that will allow you to watch it for 48 hours.
Okay. Okay.
And then the rental will time out, the video will time out.
Okay.
And you can, I think it actually deletes the file from your computer, to be honest.
Okay. And then I think it's worth going back to talk about YouTube, because the YouTube's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I know some younger people, my daughter's generation, watch it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's got just a massive range of content. But they do, among other things, allow you to watch some old movies for free. They do have some entire movies.
Such as?
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was one I saw.
Wow.
The whole 2 hours and 11 minutes of it was there.
Dear Lord.
But they...
And I thought we were the most boring thing on YouTube.
But they also have a movie rental service.
Oh, is that right?
There's a movie channel where you can pay, and I've used it, and it's quite recent movies as well. $7 or $8, depending on whether it's high definition or standard definition for a movie.
Yeah.
And you can buy it.
Oh, okay.
You can buy it for maybe $22, $24.
And so this gives you long-term ownership of the...
Yeah, and I think if you buy a Blu-ray these days, it's what, 34 or something.
I've never actually bought one.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I hardly even use them now, but yes, I do have them. So there's a huge amount out there to look at. And I was thinking that, I don't know in the esteemed circles in which you work and move, Steve, but I often hear people say, there's just so much content out there these days. We'll never get around to seeing it.
Well, guess what?
That
time has finally come, yes. Those 14 days of self-isolation because you couldn't help yourself and nipped over to Australia for the weekend.
Well, yes. I know. I mean, and there's so much content. You can't possibly do it on real time to keep up with it.
No, of course not. Absolutely not. No.
And there are probably excellent series sitting there that might be 1 or 2 or 3 years old. You've heard people talk about, and you think, well, maybe I could. Yeah,
I mean, we stumbled across one recently. I say recently, last year.
Yeah.
An Australian show called Offspring.
Okay.
Basically it's a somewhere between a sitcom and a soap opera.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of the cast. Did you ever see a series called Underbelly?
I've heard of Underbelly.
Outstanding piece of Australian TV drama.
Mm-hmm.
Set. The first series was in the Melbourne gangland wars of the early 2000s. The second one was set back in the 1970s, but it's got a lot of the cast from those shows in it.
Okay.
And the two female leads, Asha Keddy and, why can't I think of her name right now? I can picture her. Phenomenal actresses, both of them.
Okay.
And they play sisters. And it's about them and their family.
Okay.
And so we stumbled across that because I happened to notice I had Asha Keddy now. I remember her from Offspring. I thought, wow, she's superb. And so we watched that. I thought, this is just fantastic. 7 series of it.
Oh, wow.
Stumble across stuff like that.
Yeah.
You do find really good content.
Yeah.
Relatively little New Zealand content.
Yes, that would be so.
Relatively little.
Yeah.
So
that's true. And I think that's a good point at which to mention that the coronavirus is affecting not just the bands that come here, as you said. It's stopping some films that are currently in production.
Yes, it is.
And it has delayed the release of other films that we were looking forward to seeing. Some big budget ones like the new Bond has been pushed back.
The ironically titled No Time to Die. Yes, very appropriately.
The Disney live action version of Mulan's been pushed back
some
months.
Yeah, you were mentioning that the other day, weren't you?
A Quiet Place 2.
Right.
Fast and Furious 9.
Oh, well, I can live
anyway,
without that, yeah.
Sort of big budget
but
action type
these are
movies
big name films, yes.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly mention, you mentioned the Underbelly, not Underbelly, that was the other film. What was the one the series you just enjoyed very much?
Offspring.
Offspring. I've just started watching something called Godless.
Oh, yeah.
Which is an American Western.
Oh,
with
okay.
the English actress Michelle Dockery from Downton Abbey fame, playing an American...
And also The Gentleman, just recently.
Yes, yes, indeed. And it's got Jeff Daniels in it. That's been quite
entertaining. That one I might have to give a look to.
Yeah, it's quite good. So anyway, so there is heaps out there is the point we're making.
So welcome to tonight's episode of Stephen and Simon recommending shows to each other.
But I would like to hear about a classic example of what you're talking about, where you've been lucky enough to go and see a theatre production while it was still able to be put on. It's since been... The string's been pulled. It's the Book of Mormon. This was a very, as I understand, extremely provocative piece of theatre, acclaimed overseas.
Monster hit. Runaway hit.
And you've seen it, and I haven't, so please tell me about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think I was actually there for the opening night. I was certainly very early in the run.
Okay.
And so the premise is very odd. It's a musical comedy about Mormons.
In Africa, is that right?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I didn't know about this before I went in. My brother saw it last year in England. Okay. And all he would tell me was, it's fantastic, you're going to love it. Okay. And my brother Neil does have a very filthy sense of humour. Okay. And I thought, okay, if Neil's recommending it, it's going to be two things. One, it's going to be very, very good. And two, it's going to be foul.
Right.
And this is going to be glorious.
Right.
So we went along, and I'm not actually of the Mormon persuasion myself.
Are you not?
I am aware of their beliefs and their practices, but I'm not actually one of them.
Yes.
And so fortunately, you don't need to be terribly familiar. They do actually explain what's going on. And so the basic premise is you've got a couple of young Mormon fellas who are about to be sent off from Salt Lake City on their mission year. 2 years, they get sent off to evangelize around the world.
Okay.
And they get sent to, as they call it, Uganda.
Uganda, okay.
Because the Americans struggle to say Uganda. But that's where they get sent.
Yes.
It's a little village in Uganda. And so it's the two whitest people in the world who actually at one point sing a song called We Are Africa. It is... irreverent doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of it. I can't repeat any of the song titles because they are filthy beyond belief. They are atrocious. They are appalling.
And profane.
Oh, profoundly profane. And that's the glory of it. That's the joy. So our Neil was right.
Yes.
It is filthy and it's hysterical.
Okay.
And apparently the Mormon Church actually kind of embraced it.
Did they?
Well,
they might as well.
Well, there was a run in Australia not long ago in Melbourne, and so they bought the inside back page of the programme for the show, and the advert says, "You've seen the show, now read the book."
That's very clever marketing.
Which is actually quite brilliant if you think about it. And it is very, very funny.
Yeah.
The dialogue is very, very sharp. The song and the dance are... I mean, I'm not a big musical fan personally. I'm really not. But it's so funny. It's so witty. It's so clever. It's done by the people who did South Park.
Okay, well, that tells you something.
Yeah. And Team America World Police.
Oh, okay.
It's that level of filth.
Right. Okay. Now I'm getting the picture.
Right. Yes. Okay. And it's about Mormons.
Yeah, okay.
So it's hysterical.
Okay.
It's awful. I can't recommend it highly. I can't recommend it highly enough, seriously.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So, sadly, you won't get to see it.
Well, maybe in a year or something it'll come back.
They must revive it because, I mean, if they've had to pull the plug halfway through the run, it means that there was still demand for it.
Oh, yeah.
I would consider seeing it again in a year.
Okay, well,
I'll
be there. I just want to give another example of the sort of show that cannot possibly be played now. This is something I've written about on our website, cravepodcast.com, by the way, Steve.
Cravepodcast.com, you say?
I do, yep, cravepodcast.com.
.com.
And I went along to the town hall in Auckland, it's actually a week or two now ago, to see the band I'd seen 2 years before at Western Springs. This is Alien Weaponry, the teenagers from Northland, the heavy metal Maori rockers.
Yeah.
2 years down the road, I was curious to see how they'd matured.
And they have?
And they have. Their stagecraft is better. They can still rock the socks off. They still embrace the Maori tanga very, very much. But the reason I wanted to particularly mention it in relation to what's happening with coronavirus is that, as you said, they've got the town hall. It's a reasonably tight little venue. A
couple of thousand people in a little sardine box there, isn't it? Yeah.
But add to that a group of young people in the audience there to embrace the heavy metal culture, which means jumping up and slamming their chests into each other, crowd surfing, getting very, very close and moving around, and
so not social distancing. You're saying
as far away from social distancing as one could possibly get.
Right.
And it was a quite a cultural event to be there and to witness it.
Yeah.
But that is just a million miles away from what we're going to be able to do for a little while.
No, this is absolutely true. Yes, it's not going to be good, is it?
And the other thing that struck me about that occasion was there were a number of people of my vintage.
Oh, yeah?
There. And as I looked around me, I saw that all of them did what I did.
Which is?
Put some earplugs in.
Well, I have to tell you, that's part of my standard kit for any concert these days.
Yeah.
I was wearing earplugs at Elton John.
Were you?
Yeah,
okay.
my hearing is starting to suffer, so I do that as a matter of prudence, as a general rule.
Yeah.
I would imagine I would have probably taken like 2 sets to Alien Weaponry. Tell me about how did they come on stage?
Yes, well that was a nice touch where they were escorted from the back of the floor by a Kapahaka group. The 3 lads were in the middle, and the Māori performers were on the outside. They came up the centre. The crowd parted to let them go through.
Oh, very cool.
Got up to the stage. The Māori dancers got up the steps and were at the very back. And the 3 lads were standing closer to the front, and they all joined in a Māori performance.
Cool.
And the thing about it is that the Māori chanting fits with the heavy beat of that heavy metal very, very well.
It's got the energy, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I think, in my review, I did note, I think it was a very well put together show. They really know their stuff.
Yeah.
The energy was very high. I suppose necessarily a singer in a band like that is kind of shouting most of the time. And I did think that if you weren't, most of the songs were from the album 2, which came out a little while back. And so probably most of the people there were familiar with those songs. If you weren't, you probably would have struggled to understand all the words that were being sung. But there was some new material as well. So there's a second album not far away, which I think would be well worth seeing what they're going to do with it. They've toured America and Europe since we last saw them.
Okay.
There's still you feel like it's a musical and a cultural experience.
Of course it is.
And for that reason, and it's an experience so directly related to this country and its history, and being explained to us by these young people. Yeah, it feels a very vital place to be.
Okay.
And you might quibble with this musical style; it may not be your taste. I wouldn't go and sit for an hour and a half to a heavy metal band, but in this case, I do, and I would. I'd do it again to see if they toured their new album, I'd probably go and see them again.
So, in the words of the Monkees, we're the young generation.
We've got something to say.
Exactly. And the really sad thing is, these are 3 lads who are working very, very hard.
Yeah.
And they're starting to build a career.
Absolutely.
And suddenly,
this
is put on hold.
It is.
Yeah, that's kind of that's the heartbreak, isn't it? Really, a little bit. That's a real shame, that one.
Okay, so let's just put the music to one side for a moment and move on back to the films.
Aye.
Because there is a film that you've seen that, as a media person, I should have seen, but I didn't. So I'd like you to tell me about it.
I think this, given your background, and obviously, you are neither a female Fox News
host, correct,
nor a noted sexual predator.
Correct.
Exactly. So the point of contact are tenuous in this, to be fair.
We are talking about the film called Bombshell.
This is indeed correct. We're talking about Bombshell, which is the story of, ostensibly 3 women.
Yeah.
Now, I'm actually going to fire up IMDb here, because I want to make sure I get my names correct on this. I want to get my names of the characters correct.
Yes.
Because... it's based on a true story. I don't know how closely based it is, but it certainly is based around real people, and it is intercut briefly with actual footage of actual events. So actual footage of Donald Trump giving speeches about some of these people actually appears. So you've got Charlize Theron, plays Megyn Kelly, who is a Fox News anchorwoman. Nicole Kidman plays Gretchen Carlson, who again was sort of like managed out after she made complaints. Then I'm not sure if this character actually was real or if she was invented for the show. I don't recognise the name, but it's possible she was a real person. But Margot Robbie plays Kayla Pospisil, I believe the name is pronounced. Okay. Which doesn't sound like a name you'd invent, so I'm suspecting she's possibly based on a real character as well. And the problem is they either experienced or believed they were about to experience sexual harassment from Roger Ailes, who was, I don't know if he's still alive, he certainly has been the CEO of Fox News and was a champion of Donald Trump. And in fact, you got footage of Donald Trump talking about Megyn Kelly, suggesting that she was, what was the word that she uses? Is he saying I'm anger menstruating? Right. He spoke about her in very, very foul terms. But the real issue isn't that's background noise. It's about the fact that Roger Ailes was a sexual predator, right? According to this film. I'm hedging my bets here for legal reasons. We have no reason to doubt any single word these women said. But you toss in the quick allegedly in there just in case, just to cover your ass. So the story has got Megyn Kelly, who and Gretchen Carlson, who are established, mature, respected. Well, about as respected as a Fox News reader can be, but they're established. Yeah. But they're still harbouring anger against Ailes for the way that they got treated, right? As younger up and coming ones, and then Margot Robbie's incoming character. She's young, and she wants to get ahead, and Ailes played magnificently by John Lithgow, who is one of America's finest senior acting talents at the moment. He's got a range like nobody's business. That guy, he's superb. And he really gets the lizardly nastiness with superficial avuncular charm, but with this undercurrent of reptilian, and he does it really, really well. Yeah. Margot Robbie, who if he's one of the elder statesmen of American acting right now, she's one of the up and coming front runners. She's an amazing acting talent as well, and she manages to go from wide-eyed innocence to hurt to jaded angry very, very gradually. And it's really, really nicely done. Okay. Her unnecessary loss of innocence at his hands is beautifully portrayed. She's superb. Okay, cool. I mean, all three of them. Yeah, there's a lot of hefty acting talent there. It's amazing. Yeah, and then you got Theron, Kidman, and Robbie are the three on the poster who deserve to be there. Yes. You also got Alison Janney. Who. She acted with Margot Robbie in Tonya. Yeah. She played Tonya's mother. Yes. Right, and so she is on the other side this time. She's a lawyer working with Ailes. Okay. She is obviously brilliant as well as she, as she has a tendency to be. Yes. So amazing talent. Obviously, John Lithgow is as good as ever. Disappointing, I thought, was Malcolm McDowell. Oh, you didn't know he was still alive, did you? Just thinking. He pops up from time to time. Yeah. Okay. Well, he's Rupert Murdoch in this. Very briefly at the end. Right. Doing a dodgy Australian accent, to say the least. Okay. Well, that's a shame. It is a shame. Yeah. But to be fair, there's a couple of actual Aussie actors. Actually, oddly enough, two brothers who play the large adult sons of Rupert Murdoch. Okay. And they're actually quite good as well. The film itself, as a piece of storytelling, it's important. Yes. It's very powerfully done. But you remember when we saw, what was it called? Richard Jewell? Yes. Which also had a lot of actual footage from the time, footage from the time. Yes, it did. And one thing that we said about that was that you didn't let fancy directingnesses get in the way of the story. Yeah, yes. But somehow I found that the Clint Eastwood made a virtue out of that. Right. It's the absence of style is almost a style in itself. Yes. Jay Roach tries to do something similar, and it's just, as a piece of storytelling, it's somewhat workmanlike. Okay. So it just tells a story. There's very little going on in it, right, but it doesn't need it. No, the story is so strong. The story itself needs telling. You've got an amazing cast. You've got these three fantastic women at the centre of it. You've got an amazing cast circulating around the kingdom. Right. Kate McKinnon's in it. Oh yeah. And she rarely disappoints. Okay. You've got cracking acting going on in this. Yeah. And like I say, an important story. Yeah, good one. Okay. So I don't believe it's actually come out in New Zealand yet. I'm not sure.
I thought it had. We can check that.
But, I don't know if it's seen it, but if you can get hold of it, I mean, this could be one that you're going to download.
It could well be
in the near future.
Yeah,
it's worth getting hold of because it's a story worth hearing, and if anyone's going to tell that story, those three women have got to be the ones to tell it.
Yeah, good.
They're outstanding.
Well, it's good to see that because there are other films going on, as we mentioned before, which are being, are in production as we speak, which have been held back. And I had a quick look. There's a website called Deadline, which did a bit of a quick summary. There are dozens of films around the planet being held up. There must be, including Disney's Little Mermaid.
Yeah. That's no great loss.
Well, another Marvel movie called Shang-Chi. Guillermo del Toro's got another film out called Nightmare Alley. That's had to halt production.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise's 7th Mission Impossible movie is being held up. And there are
this one actually could turn out to be impossible.
Well, yeah. Yes. And so... It is even more so an opportunity to catch up with some of this other content because even when we get back on schedule, there may be a bit of a delay before a lot of new stuff comes through.
Well, as you and I were talking about before the tape started rolling, we're not going to suddenly get a global all clear come, let's say, December.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to go, right, fair enough then, boys. Back to work. It's going to take months, likely years, for things to get back out of their boxes again and get into gear and ramp back up to what we knew as normal, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time to get back to that.
Yeah.
And so, this is going to take a while.
All right.
So in the meantime, possibly the last film we see at the cinema. Because let's face it, Alien Weaponry is the last concert we're going to see for a while.
Yeah.
Cowboy Junkies are going to have to cancel. I'm gutted about that. I'm not going. I saw them in 1990, and I won't get to see them again. Heartbroken. I just hope they'll reschedule. I really do, but I'm sure they'll cancel for the time being. But anyway, this might be the last film we see at the cinemas for a while. But let's talk about the personal history of David Copperfield. So this was, I think it's expected to be released towards the end of March in New Zealand. It's had a release overseas already. It's done great business in the UK.
So this is I'm be honest and say I have not read Charles Dickens's book. I guess you can't help but grow up and being familiar with some of the names like Uriah Heep and Mr. Micawber and David Copperfield, but I'd never actually seen the whole story or read the whole story and put it all together. Nevertheless, this is I found a very interesting cinematic retelling of the story for a number of reasons. First, it's the style of the presentation of the film, Steve, is quite sharp. The way they go from scene to scene is not an orthodox. It's nothing like what we're talking about with Clint Eastwood or anything. It's very different. It's quite inventive.
It is. It's beautifully done, isn't it?
Yeah, quirky.
The flashbacks in particular.
Yeah, the flashbacks. And they've done something interesting with the cast. They have said the colour of people's skin does not matter a jot to tell the story of these characters. So we have David Copperfield, played by Raj Patel. Dev Patel, beg your pardon, Dev. We have other characters who are black, other characters who are not black, interacting as if they're colourblind. Would that be fair? I think it is. Well, it's just an interesting aspect of the telling of the story that it's not no comment is made about it at all. It's just
irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah. All you have to figure is that they decided that Armando Iannucci wrote it. Did he direct it? He directed it as well. You have to figure that he probably just decided, okay, these guys are the best actors for that role.
Yeah.
And the fact that they might not look like you look is neither here nor there. So Dev Patel plays the adult David Copperfield.
Yes.
And I have to be honest, I do think there were moments when I thought he was a little bit too understated.
Okay.
However, the little lad that played young David Copperfield, and I'm going to look up his name because he was absolutely lovely.
Yeah, he was.
Where are we looking? No, it wasn't. I can't find his name now. What's it here? Oh yeah, Jairaj Varsani.
Okay. Plays
the young David.
Yeah.
And he was just absolutely exquisite, wasn't he?
He was. He was captivating.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, the story moves through the timelines. And the other thing that's interesting that I don't worry about is, as you said, we've got the two actors playing the young and the old. David Copperfield, maybe at least 10 years apart in age. But the other actors who are still around, they don't try and age them or anything.
No, not at all.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It's a story. We'll just get on with telling the story.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, you've even got one actor is playing two characters.
Was that actually correct?
I've just had a quick look. Now we shan't give it away. But
no,
yes.
I thought that was.
But yeah, you leaned over to me last night and said, "Was that?"
It was.
And I've just had a quick look. Yes, she's got 2 credits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
well spotted, sir.
No. So the story of David Copperfield, how his life seesaws between a life of great need and want and one of relative comfort and back again, and the characters that he befriends and gets to know along the way is, I thought, quite engagingly told.
Yes, it is. Isn't it?
The script is sharp. I don't know. I have to confess how many of those lines are Dickens lines or how many of them have been modernized.
Yeah.
But there's some nice writing.
Yes.
And some really interesting other characters in the cast, from Hugh Laurie.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Dick,
yes.
who keeps reliving the travails of King Charles I.
Yes.
And you've got Tilda Swinton as the aunt, and some really good actors there.
Benedict Wong.
Yes.
He's absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
He was superb. There's a couple of unexpected ones as well. There's Peter Capaldi.
Yes.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Yes.
I mean, it's an astonishing cast. It really is. Yeah. I mean, who else is? I mean, I'm just looking down the list here and thinking, oh yeah, she was good. Yeah, he was brilliant. Yeah.
So
Rosalind Eliezer as Agnes was absolutely lovely.
Yes.
The entire cast. I mean, should we just gush? Should we just? Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's entertaining, and it's one of those films that can be funny, but also, when it wants to, can actually have a degree of dramatic weight to it.
Oh, there's heartbreak in that film.
Yeah, and it made me think, actually, my mind went to a very, you might think it's an odd place, but...
I'm used to it, Simon.
Yeah. You try living inside my mind. I thought of Parasite. Why did I think of Parasite? Because Parasite dealt with class and the rich and the poor.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, this story is a lot about that. It's a lot about deprivation, and those who have and those who have not.
Yes,
and what people will do to get from one to the other.
That's interesting. I had not drawn that parallel, but
I mean, it just brought that theme to mind, having just so recently seen Parasite.
It's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Anyway, but so it worked on sort of a broad level. It had a connection. I think it was it felt as relevant a story to tell as any other.
And then the setting of it, I think the word that's usually used in these contexts is sumptuous.
Well, when it needed to be sumptuous, it was very sumptuous.
It was beautifully done. The costumes, the sets, the whole feel of the film, it felt richly textured.
Yeah, it did. It was. I think it's. I think it's got a very broad appeal. This story. It's told in a very engaging way. Don't be put off by the fact you might think it's just some old. No. Dreary tale written 100 and something or 200 years ago. It's not.
The pacing of it.
Yeah, they've done a great job with the pacing.
It just snaps, doesn't it?
It does.
And the dialogue, I mean, it's every bit as plummy and wordy as you imagine a Dickens adaptation would be.
Yes.
And yet, you've got, like I said, the pacing of the storytelling, the quality of the acting. And I'm sure Arnucci's added his own take on the dialogue. I'm sure there was adaptation going on there. I mean, the actual credit here, it says, writing credits, Simon Blackwell, screenplay, Charles Dickens, novel, and Armando Iannucci, screenplay. So obviously there's got to be some adaptation going on. There has to be. But it's still got a very Dickensy feel to it.
It does.
And like you say, it's got all those characters. It's got Micawber. It's got a remarkably wonderful Uriah Heep.
Oh, yeah. Now, that's Ben Whishaw.
That's Ben Whishaw, yeah.
I was very impressed because I've seen him in a number of roles, from Bond to, and he voiced Paddington Bear. So he's actually got a heck of a range, that actor.
And isn't it weird to think that somebody as squalid and nasty as Uriah Heep was Paddington?
Yes.
Paddington.
He did an excellent job.
Yes.
He was a bit of a scene stealer, actually, I'd go
as
far as
saying
so.
He was actually. He was very, very good.
Yeah, so it made me think of a rock band called Uriah Heep way back in the 70s.
Oh, God, I remember them, yeah.
Anyway.
3 lead guitarists.
Okay.
Was their big gimmick, yes, I remember them. They had an album out called Abominog.
Oh, Okay.
Back in the 80s, yes. A friend of mine had a copy.
I think we're going to roundly recommend this film.
Wholeheartedly, sir.
It's a great piece of entertainment. Whether you see it at the cinema or you wait for it to be available in some other screen, it's well worth
Isn't it just?
And while we're just quickly talking about period films, I want to quickly mention Emma.
Oh yes, of course.
For a particular reason, not just because it's based on the Jane Austen novel.
Yeah.
The screenplay is by New Zealand's own Eleanor Catton, by the way.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
But the reason I wanted to mention it is this is a story that is really just set in the middle to upper class English society of the time.
Well, it was Jane Austen, wasn't it?
Jane Austen.
Yeah, that was the circles in which she moved.
Yes, and this is equally sumptuous.
Yeah.
It's got equally good actors, including the youngish actors in the lead roles, of course. Anya Taylor-Joy, who where have I seen that girl before? Young woman before. She was in
Jojo Rabbit. No,
she was in Glass and Split, which was the M. Night Shyamalan. I always get his name wrong.
Shyamalan Ding Dong,
yeah. And I'd seen her in that. A guy called Johnny Flynn plays George Knightley. Anya plays Emma. And you've got some, as David Copperfield film did. This film, Emma, has some nice comic turns from the likes of Bill Nighy.
Oh.
And even Miranda Hart.
Oh dear.
So there are some nice comic elements to it, and it's a romantic story, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was diverting and it was entertaining, but now that I've seen both those films, I could say the Dickensian story has much more pathos and depth because of the breadth of society it is talking about.
Right.
Whereas for me, the Emma story, just dealing with the trials and tribulations of some rather well-off upper-class English people, doesn't really connect.
How much are we putting that down to the subject matter and the source material?
Yeah,
and how much to the verve of the storytelling?
I think it is about the subject material, actually.
Okay,
I think they did a good job with what they had.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
that's not a criticism of the way this film was put together.
Yeah.
It so happened you've got one story dealing with the upper class and one story dealing with a much broader cross section and meatier themes and much greater drama. I saw them so close together. Emma's not a bad film, but as a story, I couldn't help but be drawn to the Dickensian story. That's all.
So there we have it. The official Crave verdict. Jane Austen, not as good as Charles Dickens. Glad we put that one to rest.
Dickens 1, Austen 0.
Glad we put that one to bed. Excellent.
All right. So look, you've really earlier on in the episode, Steve talked about some of the cancellations we've had.
Yeah.
Can we actually say much at all about anything coming up?
No.
We can't,
simple
can we?
Simple as that. Stuff's getting cancelled.
Yep.
Nothing new's getting scheduled.
Yep.
All we can do is say, make sure that A, as long as you can, support your local cinema.
Yes.
And B, once you can't, that's why you've got your Netflix list.
Yeah.
It's time to start whittling it down.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you've even got to think a little bit about how many friends you have over to watch these things, maybe. Although if you know they're all healthy and wealthy and healthy, then that's good.
Or you keep an appropriate...
social
You'll notice, by the way, folks, here, seriously. You see, look at that. There you go. That's how you do it. As long as you can't reach...
An arm's length.
An arm's length away, and you're probably safe.
Yeah. So, we live in interesting times.
We do indeed.
And we'll do another episode. It might end up being an episode looking at you can watch at home.
Quite possibly, yes.
But there's a lot out there to watch.
Isn't there just?
So we'll see you again.
So if you've got any suggestions, any recommendations and stuff that people could be watching or we should be reviewing, please let us know. You can email us
at podcast@cravepodcast.com.
You can find us all over social media at Crave Podcast.
That's right. That covers it all. Multitude of sins.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're all over the place. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And that's it then. Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, whenever that is.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm Simon Mersep.
I'm Steve McCabe.
That's what's been entertaining us this week.
And remember to wash your hands.
Yes.